Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to show you a super cool puzzle. Crazy configuration here. Take a moment to just look at the board. Take a second here. These three pawns are threatening to capture these knights, and this queen is under attack, this rook's under attack. There's a lot of stuff happening. This rook is under attack. Your job is to find the checkmate in two. There's only one move that kicks off the sequence of checkmate in two. It's really hard to find, but it's really worth the exercise. These puzzles help your calculation, in my opinion, of course. While you're thinking about this, let me quickly encourage you to subscribe if you have not yet already. Half of the income that I earn in this channel goes directly to charity, so liking, subscribing, all that stuff helps me out so much. Okay, so let me just tell you the way I started thinking about this, and maybe you can share how you thought about it in the comments. So I thought, I have this knight here, I can give checks, I have checks here, checks there, I can take this rook with check, and those are the kinds of things I started noticing right away. I noticed this rook is in a pin, which made this move, be appealing a bit more. I noticed that if I move this knight, I give check with the rook and the knight, double check, like this. So these are things that go to kind of, I think about. Of course, I could take and promote, but whether I take there or there doesn't really matter because these squares are supported and it's not going to be a mate in two. So these are the ideas that I'm thinking about. So the first move that came to mind was something like knight on c to d8. Knight takes knight. Now why did this move come to mind? Well, I'm giving a check with both pieces and it just feels like a natural move. It really is kind of counterintuitive, I would say, to move that way with the knight instead of capture with the pawns. Well, it doesn't work, because after king e5, believe it or not, there's no good checkmate in 1 here. The best that the computer can do from this position is like checkmate in 6 or 7. 7, I think, is what the computer's saying. So that move doesn't work. Okay, well, I mentioned earlier, this rook is technically free right now, because this rook on f5 is pinned. Okay, so let's try that out. Knight on b, well, that's the only knight they can take, right? Knight takes c5. Good idea, but the king can now go to d6 because this knight was covering this square. So I started thinking about, where is the key problem here? If it was like my move right now, like I said, it is my move. If it was black's move right now, what would they do? How could they get out of this trap I'm trying to lay? I noticed these checks, I noticed these ideas, but nothing ever really works because it seems like they always have one of these squares to run to. And this is kind of the key insight, the crux of the problem. So I really want to move this knight. That's the key. I want to move this knight so I can give check with this rook, and this devastating double check should be a game changer. Okay, the problem is I can't do that because this knight is controlling this current e5 square, and I can't do anything about controlling this square. If I move this knight, it will give up control of e5. Great, that's the point I'm trying to get you to see. So the question really is, how do I defend this e5 square? Well, one idea I had was bishop b2. Just defend it straight away. And if the queen takes, well, that queen had a responsibility. What was that responsibility? It was defending against these pawns promoting. So e takes f8 equals knight is checkmate because, remember, this rook is pinned. So I thought that's a nice way to win. The problem is, after bishop b2, they don't have to capture your bishop. If they do, it's mate in 1. But remember, my goal is to move this knight in the next move. So if they make a nothing move, just for example, bishop h7, the whole point is I want to take this knight and I want to capture this one and give mate. That's the point. Well, the best way for black to interfere with that plan is to just knock out the knight. And this is not going to be mate in 1. Right? If I take right here, this is not mate because this rook is being attacked by that knight. So this is not going to be mate. It'll still be mate in the couple from this position, but it's not the mate in 2 that we were trying to find. And that got me thinking more. So I'm trying to find a way to defend these squares. So I thought, okay, how about like queen h2? That kind of cuts across this whole diagonal. Anything wrong with that idea? Well, yes, because the goal is I'm threatening here. I'm also threatening, it may seem, queen a2 on this nice diagonal as well. But the problem is I have to produce checkmate on my next move. But that's not going to happen because the rook can just interpose. And now I'm not guarding this square or this square. Or sorry, I'm not guarding this square with my queen anymore. I'm not guarding e5. So again, this knight move does not hit with mate because they can just move. Right? So the key is finding out how do I defend this f5 square. F5, e5 square. And this is where the beautiful puzzle really begins. So, what move does the trick? There is only one move that leads to mate in 2. Maybe you already see it. If you do, let me know in the comments. Queen to c3. Bang. That is an exclamation point if I've ever seen one. And you might say to me, wait a second here. You are hanging your queen in 3 different directions. How does this possibly work? Well, let's look at each one. If the bishop takes, well, the bishop, that had a responsibility, right? The bishop on a5 had a responsibility over this promotion square. So I can play c takes d8, knight, another knight. Look at that. And that's checkmate. Crazy. Okay, so you can't take with the bishop. And I should say, if you move somewhere like here, or move somewhere like there or there, it doesn't change the point, right? Maybe I should show this one. If you move here, right, this is a good idea, because the idea is now I'm interfering with the rook move. It looks like a good idea, but knight on c takes d8 is the winning idea, right? There's enough defense here, enough blocking in for the white pieces. Okay, what about the rook? So after queen c3, what if the rook takes? Rook takes c3. Well, what was this rook's responsibility? Well, it was going to defend this square, it was going to defend this square and this square, but the bishop currently is looking at this d6 square. So now I can move this knight and give mate, because the knight was covering d6, but the bishop now can see d6. That's the point I'm trying to make. This rook was interfering. This rook was right here, like this. So I couldn't see this square. So by the queen getting captured, it allows my bishop vision, sight, into d6. Take it. That's a win. Okay, what about the rook? What about the queen? f6. What happens? Well, remember, the queen is currently guarding this diagonal, which means e takes d8, knight. Insane. 3 knights on the board. Amazing. Okay, so what other move is there, you might ask? Well, I'm trying to interfere with any of the plan, right? So what if I try to just do something crazy, like knight takes, right? Just try to muddy the waters. That doesn't really do anything, because the whole point is this square is going to be blocked for the king. The king will not be able to escape these squares. Whether you capture something or whether it's my pawn there, it doesn't matter. The knight on c takes d8. That is double check, and that's mate. And this bishop, not this bishop, this queen guarding here, knight, rook, everything is guarding everything. It's incredible. Okay, what other options are there for black? What if they try to play something else? What if they put the queen here? Maybe the idea is to give a square? That's a good idea. So now, if I were to do something like this, does it work? Because the king can go here, right? Well, you don't do that move anymore, because now, instead of playing knight on c takes d8, remember the queen gave up her responsibility, you play e pawn takes to a knight. So a knight still lands here, but it's not one of these knights. It's crazy. It's just an insane puzzle. But yeah, that's pretty much the key variations. If you have any other moves you want to see, the position will be in the description. But pretty much the central idea is I want to cover this square, and I interfere. No matter who gives in, it's going to allow me to do something that I couldn't do in the previous move. If the bishop moves, it allows me this pawn promotion. If the rook moves, it allows me sight of d6. And if the queen moves, it gives me access to this pawn promotion to a knight mate. It's incredible. And I should say, if you do a nothing move, maybe something like moving the bishop back, remember the whole threat was I want to move this knight and give mate, which is exactly what happens. Knight, mate. This bishop, I keep saying bishop, this queen is winning right there. But yeah, that is it for the video. If you enjoyed it, please like, please subscribe. That stuff helps me out so much. I really appreciate it. But yeah, thank you so much. Bye.